How many websites do you think you've seen at this point in your life?
Probably tens of thousands at least. And if I asked you to draw a layout of a website for a business in your niche, it'd probably look a little something like this. Pretty typical. So if this is exactly what you'd expect a website like yours to look like, shouldn't you subvert those expectations and take a hard pivot into something more creative?
Actually, no. And hear me out, this isn't just my opinion, it's completely backed by Google's own research. So we know that having a beautiful site, or at least an attractive one, makes you look more credible as a real business, therefore more trustworthy. Well, what Google found was that site visitors will judge your website as beautiful or not within 1/50th to 1/20th of a second. But get this, it's where things get really interesting. Visually complex websites were consistently rated as less beautiful than simpler ones. Not only that, but highly prototypical sites, those with layouts that are similar to other layouts in their category that also had a simple website design, were rated the most beautiful. In other words, the study found that the simpler the design, the better. So what exactly is prototypicality?
It's basically the mental image your brain creates to categorize everything you come across. Whether it's cars, interior design, or websites, your brain has a template for how things should look and feel.
When it comes to website prototypicality, there are different mental images that you might have for specific types of websites. For example, you probably have a mental image for, travel booking sites, e-commerce stores, blogs, and service businesses.
If any of these websites looks too different from your mental image, it just feels off, and your brain will reject it on a subconscious level.
That is why it's so crucial for websites to meet certain expectations. But what exactly are those expectations? Well, that's where simplicity comes in. So our brains would rather think about the things that are easy to think about. It's not laziness, it's just how we're able to prioritize and sort through all the crap that we see every minute of every day. The average adult brain can only hold between 5 to 9 chunks of information in their short-term or working memory. So working memory is what helps us focus our attention, resist distractions, and make decisions. So on a website that's low in complexity and highly typical, their working memory is freed up to process all the important stuff that you actually want your site visitors to see. Things like benefits, your unique value proposition, guarantees, and testimonials. But if you deviate from their expectations with a layout that's a little too creative for its own good, their working memory is going to be too busy processing that instead of what you really wanted them to notice. So when it comes to websites, we naturally prefer the ones where we instinctively know where everything is and what actions we're supposed to take. That's why it's important for websites to really stick to certain design standards. For instance, it's common for service business websites to have a big widescreen hero image, a 3-column layout for benefits, and a section that showcases their different services. These layouts have become prototypical within the category, and they just help create that cozy, familiar feeling for everyone. But it's not all about just playing into layout expectations. The science of simplicity is also about the overall design of your site. And while taste is subjective, what I think is a nice looking site might be really different from what you or your client thinks looks good. There's a very science-y rule of thumb for that too. A joint study found that there was one thing that is universal. The more visually complex websites they showed to all participants across a really vast variety of people had less visual appeal across the board. So, a simple and clean design is more likely to be visually appealing to a much wider range of people. And there's a reason why less visually complex websites are considered more beautiful. They don't require our eyes and brain to work nearly as hard to decode, store, and process that information. But what happens more often than not is when you're planning out your website, it might start off simple, but then you'll start to say things like, it feels like something's missing, or something should really fill in this space here, it looks empty. So you start to add unnecessary copy or images, which just adds to the visual complexity of the website and takes away from what made it so beautiful in the first place. We do this kind of thing where we expect more of ourselves than of others
all the time. We look at someone else's website, which looks perfectly nice to us, but when it's our website, we suddenly become hypercritical of every little decision. Especially if you're hiring a designer and you think that they need to earn their paycheck by using every single available square inch for more design. In the book Don't Make Me Think by Steve Krug, he says good design, when it's done well, becomes invisible. It's only when it's done poorly that we notice it. And that doesn't mean there's not room for unique design choices. You can still make your website stand out from your competition while still having a conventional layout that's really easy for users to navigate. You just need to infuse creativity within those limitations. And one way to be creative is through visual design. While you definitely should stick to conventional design layouts that users are familiar with, you can still play around with color schemes and fonts, spacing and imagery to create a unique look and feel for your website. So think about your brand and what makes it different from others in your industry. Then use those unique qualities to inspire your web design. You can also add unique features to your website that go beyond the conventional layout. Consider adding interactive elements like quizzes, little animations instead of icons, and video instead of static images to engage your site visitors and create a much more memorable experience. These elements can also help users remember your brand and return to your website in the future. And if you want to create a beautifully simple but really impactful website like I'm talking about, I do want to let you know that starting this coming Monday, the doors will officially reopen to my signature program, the Profitable Website Launchpad. So this is the start to finish system that over 1,000 service business owners have already been through and seen incredible success with. In over 4 modules, I'm going to show you how to create your most persuasive sales message, how to translate that raw messaging into finished copy for your entire site, how to create one piece of pillar content that'll fill your runway of future clients for years to come. And then finally, in module 4, I'm going to show you step by step how to take all that content that we created together and turn it into a beautiful, functional WordPress website that's live and online. And the best part, we're gonna do it all with zero coding, just a really simple and actually fun to use drag and drop interface. And we're starting with my expertly created custom site kit that 100% plays into everything we talked about in this video. And my students are raving about the good things that have come out of their new client generation focused websites. And I'm really hoping that I'll be able to show you here next time around. So doors open up this Monday, May 15th, and they're closing again on Friday, the 19th. For all the details, just head over to wesmcdowell.com/launch.